I didn't know it then. Not on that warm Tuesday morning in August, not when the judge stamped the final papers, not when she walked out of the courtroom without looking back. But that settlement would carve a crack straight through the next 10 years of my life. She got the house. I got the business. And everyone said it was fair. Everyone was wrong. It was 9:12 a.m. when we stepped outside the courthouse. I remember because my phone buzzed with a calendar reminder I'd forgotten to disable. Anniversary dinner, 7 p.m. The irony almost knocked the breath out of me. She glanced at her purse. Not at me. Not at the message lighting up on my screen, and said, "Well, that's that." Her voice was light, almost relieved, like she'd been holding her breath for the last 5 years and finally exhaled. I watched her get into the car. A black SUV her sister let her borrow, and I felt something I didn't expect. Not anger, not sadness, just a strange emptiness, like someone had scooped out the middle of my chest and left everything else standing. The business had been our lifeline. The house had been our dream. And now the judge had sliced those two things clean in half, assigning each of us a piece like children dividing toys after a fight. Except one of those toys was broken. I just didn't know it yet. When I pulled up to the shop later that morning, the sign looked crooked. I don't know if it always leaned slightly to the left or if the weight of the new reality made everything appear off balance. The parking lot was empty. Of course it was. I'd sent everyone home for the day, but something about the stillness felt heavy. Too heavy. Inside, the air smelled the same. Sawdust, oil, and the faint scent of lemon cleaner the new guy kept overusing. Familiar. Safe. Mine. Or so I thought. I walked straight to the office, pushed open the door, and found the stack of papers I'd been avoiding all week. Financials, payroll, inventory, things I thought I understood, things I thought were fine. I sat down, opened the top folder, and for a moment everything was normal. The numbers made sense. Orders matched invoices. And then, midway down page 6, something tugged at me. A missing payment. Small enough to overlook. Big enough to matter. I circled it, wrote a note to check it later, and kept going. But within 10 more pages, there were 3 more inconsistencies. A discrepancy on a supplier bill. A loan payment made on a date I didn't authorize. A credit card charge for a vendor I'd never used. A cold pulse moved through my chest. I pulled out my phone and called our accountant, Charlie. He didn't answer, which wasn't unusual. He liked morning walks, for clarity. He always said, but I didn't like how my voice sounded when I left the message. "Tally some numbers for me when you get in," I said. Something's off. I didn't know it then, but off didn't begin to cover it. At 11:47 a.m., I found the first real crack. Not in the paperwork. Not in the building. In a drawer. Her drawer. We kept 2 desks in the office, mine on the right, hers on the left. Even after she stopped coming in regularly, I never cleared it out. Maybe out of habit. Maybe out of sentiment. Maybe because I didn't want to face the reality that she was slowly stepping away long before the divorce papers were filed. The key was still taped under the top drawer, right where she always left it. I peeled it off, unlocked the drawer, and pulled it open. Inside was nothing dramatic, just a notebook, red cover, frayed edges, her handwriting across the front. House, repairs, and projects. At first, I assumed it was old. Maybe from before we bought it. Maybe from the early years when we still imagined fixing things together. When weekends meant paint splatters on our clothes and shared takeout on the living room floor. But the dates inside weren't old. They were recent. Very recent. Just a month before she filed. New AC unit estimate. Roof assessment scheduled.
Kitchen remodel quota.
Inspector visit, Wednesday at 2 p.m. My stomach tightened. Why would she need a remodel quote when we were barely talking? Why schedule an inspector? Why plan repairs when she was already preparing to leave? Unless she knew. Unless she knew the house would be hers. Long before I did. For a moment, I just sat there, staring at the pages as the letters blurred. I could hear the sound of her voice in my head, soft, steady, assured. We'll be fair. A lie disguised as reassurance. I closed the notebook, leaned back in my chair, and let my hands fall to my face. I wasn't angry yet. Not fully. I was confused, tired, and underneath all of that, scared. Scared of what else I'd missed. Scared of what else I was about to find. Because marriages don't end in a courtroom. They end slowly, through small choices, quiet secrets, whispered doubts. And I realized in that moment that she'd been building her exit long before she told me she wanted one. And I'd been too busy trying to save the business to notice. By lunchtime, the silence felt suffocating. I grabbed my keys, stepped outside, and let the afternoon heat press against my skin. For exactly 47 minutes, I sat in my truck, staring at the steering wheel while my mind raced through every fight, every apology. Every late night she said she was just tired. Looking back now, I see the truth. She wasn't tired. She was preparing. And I was the last to know. Halfway through that spiral of memories, a thought slipped into my mind. One I didn't want, one I tried to push away, one that still cuts even now. Was she planning all this with someone else? I hated myself for thinking it. But once the question formed, it clung to me like wet fabric. And if you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted completely, you know this feeling. And if you're here right now, I see you. Drop a broken heart below. At 2:03 p.m., my phone buzzed. Charlie. Hey, he said, his voice strangely tight. I looked into those numbers. My grip tightened on the wheel. And, you should come to my office. Just tell me. A pause. Then soft, almost hesitant. It's not good, man. My heartbeat kicked hard against my ribs. What does that mean? It means, he said carefully, someone's been moving money, for a while, and they were smart about it. My throat went dry. How long? Long enough that we need to talk in person. Long enough. Those two words hit harder than the divorce decree. Because long enough didn't mean months. It meant years. I closed my eyes, let the heat swallow the silence, and tried to breathe. But all I could hear was her voice again, echoing from months ago. We'll be fair. And I realized something. Fairness had nothing to do with any of it. I started the truck, drove toward Charlie's office, and with every mile, a single thought pulsed louder in my head. If she knew about the house, what else did she know? What else had she planned? What else had she taken? And when I opened Charlie's door later that afternoon, I learned the first piece of the truth, but not the last, not even close, because what he showed me shattered everything I thought I understood about our marriage. Nd about her. And, got it, just confirm one thing so I deliver it exactly to your spec. I didn't sleep the night after Charlie showed me those documents. Not a minute. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the same image. The spreadsheet on his monitor, glowing in the dim light of his office. Numbers highlighted in red. Transfers I'd never approved. Accounts I didn't recognize. 10 years of marriage, and somehow I'd missed the truth sitting right in front of me. Or maybe someone had worked very hard to make sure I didn't see it. The next morning, 6:18 a.m., according to the clock on my stove, I found myself pacing the kitchen of my new apartment. A cramped one-bedroom I'd barely moved into. No curtains. No couch. Just a mattress on the floor and a coffee maker that hissed like it was angry at the world too. The divorce hadn't left me broke, but it left me disoriented. Like everything familiar had been scraped away. That's when my phone buzzed. A text from my ex-wife's sister, Claire. Can you come by the house? There's something here you should get. The house. Her house now. The one with the porch we built together. The kitchen we remodeled together. The bathroom she insisted had bad feng shui. So we changed it twice. My chest tightened. But I typed back. On my way. I didn't know it then. But walking into that house again would unravel another layer of lies. And reveal something she never intended anyone, especially me, to find. The neighborhood looked the same as the day I left. Kids riding scooters. Lawns perfectly trimmed. The Johnsons' annoying golden retriever sprinting along the fence line like it wanted to tear my tires off. But the house felt different. The curtains were drawn, something she never did. She liked sunlight too much. Said it made the place feel alive. But today the windows looked like closed eyelids. I knocked twice. Claire swung the door open fast, like she'd been waiting right behind it. "You okay?" I asked. She shook her head. "Not really." My stomach dropped. "What happened? Is she?" "No," she said quickly. "She's fine. Physically. A beat. It's just, come in." The way she said physically didn't sit right. I stepped inside. The smell hit me first. Lavender, the candle scent she always used after cleaning days. Except, the house didn't look freshly cleaned. It looked rummaged through. A drawer half open in the entryway. A blanket on the floor. Papers scattered near the dining table. "What happened?" I asked again. Claire walked toward the staircase, motioning me to follow. "She left in a hurry last night. Didn't say where she was going." "Left in a hurry, why?" "She found something," Claire said. "Or someone found something for her." "Your guess is as good as mine." I froze. "What does that mean?" Claire didn't answer. Instead, she handed me a small cardboard box from the dining table. My name was written on top in her handwriting. "She told me to give you this if anything changed." My pulse spiked. "Changed? Changed how?" "She didn't say. Just told me to keep it safe." I stared at the box. Like, maybe a few sheets of paper inside. Maybe nothing. "What's in it?" I asked. Claire shook her head again. "I didn't open it. Wasn't my business." I considered leaving, taking the box and walking out, forgetting the house, forgetting her, forgetting the messy, tangled knots she kept leaving behind for me to trip over. But then I saw something on the staircase. A manila envelope, addressed to her. Not me, not Claire, her. And the return address? No name, just a P.O. box number in a town nearly 2 hours away. But the handwriting, I knew it. I shouldn't have known it, but I did. Because it was the same handwriting I'd seen in the business financials Charlie showed me. The same handwriting on the fraudulent vendor invoices. The same handwriting on the loan papers I didn't sign. My hands went cold. "Where did that come from?" I asked. Claire followed my gaze. "That? I found it on the porch last night." "Did she read it?" "I think so," she said quietly. "Because she left 5 minutes after." A strange buzzing filled my head. Like static. Like my mind was trying to connect dots faster than I could breathe. "Can I?" I pointed at the envelope. Claire hesitated. "If she comes back." "She won't," I said before I could stop myself. I didn't know why I said it. Didn't know how I knew. But I did. I reached down, picked up the envelope, and ripped it open. Inside was a single sheet of paper. 1 sentence. 11 words. Each one a knife. "Ask him why the business was losing money before you left." My vision tunneled. I read it again. And again. The handwriting. The same slanted strokes. The same pressure marks. The same faint smudge lines where the writer dragged the pen too hard. Claire's voice broke through the ringing in my ears. "What does it mean?" I couldn't answer. My throat had closed. Because that sentence wasn't random. It wasn't vague. It wasn't an accusation. It was a warning. A specific warning. Someone knew. Someone else knew. And they wanted her to know too. I sank onto the bottom step, my hand gripping the banister so tight my knuckles popped. For years I thought the business troubles were my fault. Mismanagement, stress, bad luck. But what if it wasn't bad luck? What if it wasn't me? What if someone had been bleeding the company long before the divorce? Long before she left? Long before I even noticed anything was wrong? Who would do that? My mind went through every possibility, an employee, a former partner, a vendor, hell, even a competitor. But then another thought crept in. Darker. More painful. More dangerous. What if it was her? I didn't want to think it. Didn't want to even consider it. But the timeline, the repairs, the secret notes, the financial discrepancies, It all pointed somewhere. Somewhere I wasn't ready to face. Claire sat down beside me. There's more. I looked up. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a folded sheet of paper. Not the envelope. This was different, older, worn at the edges. She left this on the table before she ran out. I shouldn't have read it, but I was scared. I unfolded it slowly, recognized her handwriting instantly. It was a letter. To me. Except I wasn't supposed to see it. Not yet. Maybe not ever. It began with one sentence that made my heart stop. If you're reading this, then what I feared is already happening. My breath caught. The next lines weren't any easier. You don't know everything about what went wrong. You don't know who started it. And I didn't tell you because part of me hoped I was wrong. My hands trembled. Claire whispered, "There's more on the back." I turned the page over. One line, underlined. He told me not to tell you. I stared at that sentence until the room blurred around it. Not she, not they, a man. Someone she'd been talking to. Someone she trusted. Someone who had information. And someone she was now running from. My mouth went dry. Claire, do you know who he is? She swallowed hard. I have a guess. Who? She hesitated, then whispered a name I hadn't heard in years. A name that sent ice down my spine. A name tied to a past mistake I thought was buried. Evan. And just like that, everything I thought I knew about the divorce, the business, the money, and even her, split open. Because Evan wasn't just anyone. He had reason to hurt me. Reason to infiltrate the business. Reason to get close to her. And reason to stay hidden. And if he was involved, then the missing money, the anonymous warnings, her sudden disappearance, all of it was connected, and all of it was only the beginning. I pulled into Charlie's office parking lot before he even unlocked the door. I wasn't supposed to be there until 9, but sleep had become a stranger, and my mind wouldn't stop replaying the same line from her letter. He told me not to tell you, Evan. I hadn't thought about him in years, and now it felt like his shadow stretched across every part of my life. My marriage, my business, even the divorce settlement. At 8:04 a.m., Charlie finally arrived. He froze when he saw me leaning against my truck. "Jesus," he said, "you look like hell. I need answers," I told him. "Now." He sighed, unlocked the door, and motioned me inside. The place smelled like stale coffee and copier toner, same as always. But today, felt like a confession booth. He didn't bother sitting. He just walked to his computer, typed in a password, and pulled up a folder labeled, "Discrepancies, Confidential." "Okay," he said. "Here's what I found." Rows of transactions appeared on the screen. Numbers, dates, vendors, transfers. But my eyes locked onto one column.
Accountant signature, EB.
I stepped closer.
EB?
"That's not you." "No," Charlie said quietly. "And it's not anyone in the company either." My stomach tightened. "Evan Barnes." Charlie looked up sharply. "You know him?" I nodded once. "He used to be a consultant. Years ago. A consultant. That was the polite word. In reality, Evan was a walking disaster, brilliant, manipulative, charming in a way that disguised sharp edges. I'd hired him during a rough patch in the business, trusting his spreadsheets and confidence more than I should have. He lasted 3 months. 3 destructive, expensive, chaotic months. And when I fired him, he said something I never forgot. "You'll regret pushing me out. I never lose." Charlie clicked through more files. Transaction logs. Balance shifts. Quiet withdrawals. Tiny amounts, too small to raise alarms but consistent enough to add up over time. "Whoever did this," Charlie said, "knew exactly how to stay under the radar." I swallowed hard. He was smart. Always 2 steps ahead. Charlie pulled up one more file. A scanned document. A loan application. With my name forged at the bottom. The signature looked like mine. But it wasn't. I'd never signed anything like that. Not even close. Charlie pointed to the witness line.
Witness, EB.
My vision blurred. He used your business as collateral, Charlie said. If we hadn't caught this, you could have lost the whole thing. I sank into the nearest chair, the weight of everything crashing down at once. My marriage had been falling apart. The business had been bleeding money. And somehow, behind the scenes, Evan had been pulling strings for who knows how long. But the part that twisted the knife? He hadn't done it alone. Someone helped him. Or at least, someone opened the door for him. I stared at the screen, thinking of her letter, her fear, her secrecy, her sudden disappearance. If she knew he was involved, I whispered, "Why didn't she tell me?" Charlie shifted uncomfortably. She might have been protecting herself. From what? I don't know, he said. But look at this. He clicked into a folder labeled correspondence. On the screen appeared a thread of emails, fake accounts, burner addresses, encrypted attachments. But the dates were the worst part. They started long before the divorce, long before the settlement, long before she told me anything was wrong. Charlie, I said slowly, are you saying this was happening while she and I were still together? He nodded. And she never mentioned it? Maybe she couldn't, he said. Maybe someone told her to stay quiet. He told me not to tell you. The words from her letter echoed again, louder this time. A chill ran through me. So what's the motive? I asked. Charlie hesitated. I can only think of 2 reasons. Which are? 1, revenge. 2, leverage. The air seemed to thicken. Against her? Or me? Maybe both. I pressed my hands against my face. Unbelievable. Charlie paused. There's one more thing. My stomach dropped. What? He opened a final document. A bank transfer. Not from my account, but to it. From an unknown source. A large deposit. Too large. And the name listed on the origin? Not Evan. Not a vendor. Not some anonymous entity. It was someone I trusted. Someone I never thought would betray me. I leaned closer, breath caught in my throat. Then I saw it. The name that shattered any doubt I had left. Her best friend. And suddenly I understood. This wasn't about money. This wasn't about the divorce. This wasn't even about me. This was a web, one I had stumbled into too late. And she had been caught in it long before I ever realized. The night everything shifted was a Thursday, 10:56 p.m., to be exact. I remember the time because I stared at the glowing digits on my phone over and over, trying to convince myself I wasn't imagining what I saw. Her house lights were on. All of them. Every window glowing like the place was wide awake. Like someone was inside moving from room to room. Except she wasn't supposed to be home. She'd disappeared 2 nights earlier. Claire hadn't heard from her. I hadn't heard from her.
No social media.
No bank activity. Nothing. She'd just vanished. And now, suddenly, the house was lit up like a stage. Something wasn't right. Something was very wrong. I sat in my truck across the street, engine off, headlights dark. A thin fog hung over the neighborhood, the kind that softened the edges of everything and made silence feel heavier than it should. My fingers drummed against the steering wheel, nervous, restless, cold. I should have called the police. I knew that, but something stopped me, a sense I can't fully explain. Like if I involved anyone else, the truth would scatter, disappear, slip through my fingers before I understood it. So I stayed, watching, breathing shallow, waiting, and then I saw it. A shadow in the kitchen window. Not her silhouette, it was taller, broader, moving with a confidence that didn't match the frantic way she'd left days earlier. My heart hammered once, hard. Who the hell is in her house? I texted Claire immediately. Me, lights are on. Claire, what? Is she back? Me, I don't think it's her. Claire, do not go inside. I'm calling the police.
Me, no.
Wait. My thumb froze above the screen after I typed it. Why had I written that? Because deep down, I knew this wasn't random. The envelope, the forged documents, the transfers, Evan resurfacing after years in the dark. And her letter, he told me not to tell you. Everything pointed in one direction. Someone was making moves, tying up loose ends, rewriting the pieces of a game I didn't know I was in. And that someone was inside her house. The kitchen light flickered. Once, twice, then went out completely. My breath hitched. The rest of the house stayed illuminated. Living room, hallway, upstairs bedrooms. But the kitchen's sudden darkness felt intentional, like a warning, or a signal. I ducked lower in my seat, pulse pounding in my ears. A car passed behind me, its headlights washing over my rearview mirror, and for a split second I thought whoever was inside had noticed me. But the windows stayed still. No movement.
No silhouette.
Just that eerie, too bright glow. And then my phone buzzed again. A message from an unknown number. Stop watching the house. My blood ran cold. I looked at the screen, reread the text, felt my grip tighten until my knuckles whitened. How did they know I was here? I scanned the street, every driveway, every porch, every dark window. Nothing. Just quiet, suburban stillness. The kind that hides things. I typed back, "Where is she?" 3 dots appeared. Typing. Then disappeared. Then appeared again. And finally, "You're asking the wrong questions." I stared at the message until my heartbeat turned into a loud, relentless drum. Wrong questions. Then what was the right one? My phone dinged again. Check the garage. I froze, turned my head slowly. The garage door was closed, but a thin line of light leaked out from beneath it, pulsing faintly like someone was walking back and forth inside. Once, twice, 3 times. I swallowed. Every instinct screamed, "Don't go." But something else. Something sharper. Something that had lived in my chest ever since I saw the forged documents on Charlie's screen, pushed me forward. I got out of the truck. Quietly. The air was cold enough to make my breath visible. Each step toward the garage felt heavier than the last. When I reached the side door, I noticed the doorknob was slightly turned. Just enough that it wasn't fully latched. Someone had gone in recently, or was still inside. I hesitated. Listened. Nothing. Then, a faint metallic clink, like a tool being set down. I took a slow breath and pushed the door open. The smell hit me first. Motor oil. Dust. A hint of her lavender cleaning spray. And something else, something metallic, sharp, unsettling. Not blood. Not exactly. More like fear itself hung in the air. The lights were on overhead. The workbench was cluttered. A single drawer was pulled open, and on top of it lay a stack of papers. My papers. Business documents. Financial records. Email printouts. Photocopies of the forged signatures. Someone had been studying them, tracking them, setting them out with purpose. This wasn't random. It was curated, intended, arranged for me to see. My heart thudded once, hard, as I stepped closer. That's when I noticed something under the papers. A note, handwritten. 2 words. Not her. I swallowed hard. Not her. Not her who? Not her in the house? Not her who betrayed me? Not her who left. My head spun. Before I could process it, something else clicked. Literally. A soft sound behind me. I turned. Slow. Tense. Every nerve screaming. The side door had moved. Just an inch. Someone had touched it. Someone had been outside. Someone was still there. Watching. Waiting. The phone vibrated in my hand. A new message from the same unknown number. Get out. Now. My chest tightened. A shadow passed across the thin strip of light under the garage door. Slow. Deliberate. Too close. I backed away from the bench, heart pounding out of rhythm. Adrenaline surging through every muscle in my body. Another message. Run. And in that split second, I heard footsteps. Fast. Approaching. From the other side of the door. The footsteps were close. Too close. And something instinctual snapped inside me. I didn't think. I didn't breathe. I just moved. I slipped out the side door, pulled it shut behind me, and crouched low along the shadowed wall of the house. My heart hammered so violently it felt like it echoed through the siding. The footsteps reached the door, paused. The metal knob jiggled once. Then again. Slow. Testing. Not panicked, calculating. Whoever it was, they weren't afraid. That terrified me more than anything. I pressed myself flat against the wall, barely daring to breathe. After a long, tense moment, the footsteps moved away. Not fast, measured, controlled, like the person knew exactly where they were going next. And something told me they weren't leaving. They were repositioning, circling, hunting. For me, I backed along the walkway inch by inch until I reached the corner of the house. When I peeked around it, the living room lights were still on. But the silhouette I'd seen earlier was gone. Where the hell did they go? My phone vibrated. Unknown number again. You shouldn't have come alone. My hands shook. Me. Where is she? Unknown. You're still asking the wrong questions. Me. Then give me the right one. Unknown. Why did she take the house? I froze. That question sliced through everything. Why did she fight for the house so desperately? Why did she plan repairs, inspections, renovations before she even filed? Why did she leave that night, terrified enough to vanish? I thought it was emotional. I thought it was sentimental. I thought it was just a divorce thing. But what if it wasn't? What if there was something in the house? Something she knew about. Something Evan wanted. Something someone else threatened her over. Something worth disappearing for. I left the walkway and slipped toward the driveway, moving quietly across the concrete. I didn't see the shadow until it shifted near the front porch. Tall, still, positioned like a guard. I ducked behind my truck. The person on the porch lifted a phone. My phone buzzed instantly. I see you. My lungs seized. This wasn't random. This wasn't a break-in. This wasn't someone searching through her things out of panic. This was orchestrated, planned, and whoever was standing there, they had eyes on me the entire time. I swallowed hard and typed, Me. What do you want? Unknown. The truth. Me. About what? Unknown. About the house. I pressed my forehead to the steering wheel. Sweat beaded down my neck. The night felt heavier. The fog thicker. The porch figure unmoving. Then the next message came. Check her office. Top drawer. Her office. Inside the house. Exactly where the shadow had been standing earlier. I clenched my jaw. Whatever was happening, whoever this person was, they wanted me to go in. They were leading me, breadcrumb by breadcrumb, into the worst possible idea. I should have walked away. I should have driven off. I should have called the police, the neighbors, hell, even Claire. But I didn't, because the last thing she ever wrote to me whispered through my head. If you're reading this, then what I feared is already happening. She wasn't afraid of Evan. She was afraid of the truth. And she'd left something behind. Something she didn't have time to hide. Something someone else desperately wanted. And if I didn't find it first, someone else would. The porch figure finally moved, stepping off the top stair, walking toward the sidewalk, disappearing into the fog like they had melted into the night. Gone. But I didn't trust it. My hands still trembling, I slipped around to the back door, the one we used to leave unlocked when we were still us. When she used to joke that the cul-de-sac was a fortress. Tonight it opened with a soft click. Inside, the air felt wrong. Too warm, too still, too expectant, like the walls were holding their breath. I crept through the kitchen, past the island where we used to eat late-night cereal, past the window where I'd first seen the silhouette hours earlier. Nothing. The living room was empty, the stairs quiet, but the office door? Slightly open, just like the garage drawer, like someone wanted me to notice. I stepped inside. Her desk was exactly the way she'd left it. Organized but lived in, pen cup crooked, a stack of mail she never sorted, the faint scent of her perfume lingering in the air. My throat tightened. I pulled the top drawer open. At first, I saw nothing unusual: folders, sticky notes, a couple old receipts. Then I noticed an envelope tucked underneath everything else. yellowing, old, edges frayed. 10 years old. The postmark confirmed it. Dated 10 years ago. The year we bought the house. The year everything still felt possible. I slid it out. My name was written on the front. Not hers.
Mine.
And suddenly, my heart stopped, because I recognized the handwriting instantly. It wasn't hers. It wasn't Evan's. It wasn't anyone I expected. It belonged to one person. Her father. The man who died 9 months after we moved in. The man everyone said left nothing behind. The man who never liked me. My fingers shook as I opened the envelope. Inside was a letter. 1 page. Short. Sharp. Poisonous. This house is not what she thinks it is. And you are not who you think you are. If anything happens to me, open the safe. She can never know. My breath caught. There was an address on the bottom. An address I'd never seen before. And a code. A 6-digit code. A safe. What safe? Where? Whose? Footsteps creaked above me. Soft. Slow. Deliberate. Someone else was in the house. I folded the letter fast, shoved it into my jacket, and turned toward the door. Another footstep. Then another. Not her. Not Claire. Not the porch figure. Someone heavier. Calmer. Patient. My phone buzzed. 1 line. You found it. Run. I bolted. Through the hallway. Out the back door. Down the driveway. Behind me, inside the house. Someone started descending the stairs. Not rushing. Following. And as I reached my truck, breath burning in my chest, I realized something horrifying. The house wasn't just important. It wasn't just valuable. It wasn't just sentimental. It was a vault. For secrets older than our marriage. Older than our divorce. And someone would kill to keep them hidden. I didn't go home that night. I didn't even try. I parked 2 blocks away from my apartment, killed the engine, and sat in the dark truck while my pulse slowly stopped pounding in my ears. My hands were still trembling from what I'd found in the drawer. Her father's letter, his handwriting, the safe, the warning. And above it all, the footsteps in her house. Someone else had been there. Someone who knew I was there. Someone who didn't need to rush because they already had the upper hand. By 3:12 a.m., my phone buzzed again. I expected the unknown number. It wasn't. It was her best friend, Mia. A name I hadn't said out loud since before the divorce. I need to see you. Now, please. My stomach twisted. Mia had been in our wedding. She'd been at every birthday, every barbecue, every holiday. And in the last 2 years of our marriage, she'd started retreating. Or maybe we started retreating from her. Either way, she wasn't a friend to me anymore. But the urgency in that text, it wasn't optional. I typed back 1 word. Where? Her reply came instantly. The diner. Don't tell anyone you're coming. That line chilled me more than the footsteps in the house. The diner was a 24-hour spot on the edge of town. Greasy booths, lukewarm coffee, fluorescent lights that made everyone look a little haunted. At 3:46 a.m., it was nearly empty. Mia sat in the back corner, a hoodie pulled tight around her face, hands wrapped around a mug she wasn't drinking from. When she saw me, her eyes widened, not with warmth, with fear, real fear. Sit, she whispered. I slid into the booth across from her. She looked thinner than I remembered, paler, sleepless. Mia, I said slowly, if you know where she is. I don't, she said quickly. I swear I don't. Her voice cracked. But I know why she ran. My chest tightened. Then start talking. She scanned the empty diner, leaned forward, and lowered her voice to barely above a whisper. This wasn't supposed to involve you. My jaw clenched. Well, it does. I know, she said, swallowing hard. And I'm sorry. God. I am so sorry. But she didn't want you dragged into it. She didn't want me dragged into what? Mia looked down at her hands. The house. My pulse stuttered. You know about the safe, she added quietly. My heart nearly stopped. She knew? How the hell did she know? Before I could speak, she continued. Her father, he was paranoid. You know that. He didn't trust anyone. Not you, not her mother, not even her. So he left something? I asked. Something someone wants? She nodded. And they'll do anything to get it. The diner lights buzzed overhead, filling the silence between us. Finally, I said, "Who is they?" Mia's eyes filled with tears. "I can't say. Not out loud." "Mia." She held up a shaking hand. "Just listen, please." I sat back, barely breathing. She took a long, trembling inhale. "The year you two bought the house." She found something buried under the floorboards in the attic. A cold pulse shot down my spine. "She never told you," Mia said. "She couldn't, because it wasn't hers. It wasn't even her father's." My mind raced. What was it? Mia closed her eyes. A ledger. A ledger. A word simple enough, harmless enough. Except the dread in her voice made it sound like something radioactive. "What kind of ledger?" I asked. "The kind people kill for." My stomach curled into a tight knot. "Mia, who does it belong to?" She looked at me, eyes red, voice barely a breath. Her father wasn't just a contractor. He worked for a man who didn't exactly believe in banks. He kept a second set of books. Names, deals, numbers, payoffs. My blood went cold. "You're saying he hid it in the house?" "Yes," she whispered. "And when he died, she found it. A decade-old lie. 10 years of secrets. And the house at the center of it all." Mia's hands trembled so violently she had to pull them into her sleeves. She didn't understand what she'd found. She thought maybe it was just personal notes. But someone else knew. Someone her dad worked with before he died. Someone who wanted that ledger back before it could ruin them. My mind connected the dots faster than I could stop it. Evan. Her face crumpled. He wasn't just a consultant. He knew her father. Worked with him. And when he realized she had the ledger, her voice broke. He threatened her. Heat shot through my chest. "She didn't tell me any of this." "She couldn't," Mia said. "She thought she could manage it. Hide the ledger. Hide the safe. Pretend it didn't exist." I shook my head. "Why take the house in the divorce?" "Because the ledger is still there," Mia whispered. "And she knew if she didn't take it, someone else would." A sickening realization washed over me. She didn't want the house. She wanted what was inside it. Mia nodded. Slow. Heartbroken. "She kept the repairs as a cover. She kept her distance because she thought you were safer not knowing. And when Evan resurfaced a few months ago, everything changed." My throat tightened. "So why disappear?" "She got a message," Mia whispered. "Same P.O. box you saw. Told her someone else was coming. Someone worse than Evan." I leaned forward. "Who?" Mia stared at the wall behind me as if afraid it might answer. "I don't know his name," she whispered. "But your wife called him the Collector." A chill ripped through me. "What does he want?" "The ledger," she said. "And he'll burn your lives down to get it." I sat back, breath shallow, heart beating too fast. "And the worst part," Mia whispered, voice cracking completely, "is that she didn't run to save herself. She looked me dead in the eyes. She ran to keep you alive." The room tilted. My chest tightened. "Mia, what aren't you telling me?" She wiped her eyes, voice shaking. "The transfers to your business?" she whispered. "The forged loans? The missing money?" I nodded slowly. "That wasn't just Evan." My heart stopped. That was me. For a moment, I didn't understand the words. Then the world slammed sideways. "What?" "I'm so sorry," she cried, covering her face. "He made me. He said if I didn't help bleed your business, he'd go after her mother next." I didn't know what else to do. My hands curled into fists. "Mia, why didn't you tell me?" "Because the Collector doesn't give second warnings," she whispered. "And if you go looking for her, he'll know." I stared at her, the weight of everything collapsing around me. "And he won't let either of you live long enough to find that safe." When I left the diner, The sky was just starting to lighten. One of those gray, uncertain dawns where the world feels half asleep and half afraid. It was 5:22 a.m. I sat in my truck, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my hands ached. Mia's confession kept replaying in my head like a loop I couldn't shut off. She helped drain the business. She was threatened. She was terrified. She wasn't the only one. And the worst part? My ex-wife wasn't running from me. She was running to protect me. My chest tightened every time I thought about that. I'd spent months thinking she left because she didn't love me. But now, love was the only reason she disappeared. I started the engine. There was only one person I trusted enough to talk to next. Charlie. I reached his office before he opened again. Today, though, I didn't wait outside. I paced fast, back and forth across the parking lot like I was trying to wear a hole in the pavement. At 6:03 a.m., Charlie pulled in. He took one look at me and shut his car door slowly. "Jesus," he muttered. "You didn't sleep." "I need another look at the numbers," I said. "All of it." He blinked. "Did something happen?" Everything happened. He unlocked the door without another question. Inside, the office felt colder than usual. Or maybe that was just me. Charlie sat at his computer and pulled up the discrepancies again. The forged invoices, the loan applications, the vendor payments to non-existent companies. But this time, I noticed something I'd skimmed before. Pattern. "Charlie," I said slowly, "sort them by vendor." He clicked a few keys. The screen rearranged. My stomach dropped. Every fraudulent vendor, every fake expense, every forged signature, they all connected to two companies. Just two.
Rich Point Solution.
And East Harbor Logistics. Both small, both obscure, both with P.O. boxes instead of actual offices. And both founded the same year my ex-wife found the ledger. "Those companies aren't real," I said. Charlie gave a humorless laugh. "They're shells, paper walls. Someone created them specifically to funnel money." I shook my head slowly.
No.
Someone created them to bleed me quietly enough that I wouldn't notice. Charlie rotated the monitor toward me. "That's not the worst part." He clicked open a folder I hadn't seen before. Audit _ previous years. My mouth went dry. "You said we only looked at the last 3 years," I said. "I lied," he said softly. "I dug deeper while you were gone last night." "What did you find?" He clicked a file. Numbers filled the screen, rows of dates, transfers, account details. And there it was, the worst truth yet. The business hadn't been healthy for 10 years. A decade. The exact length of our marriage. And the exact length of time since her father died. "Charlie?" I whispered. "Are you saying this started the year we bought the house?" He nodded. "Your books were altered every year since then. Not drastically, just enough to hide a slow leak." My heart thudded painfully against my ribs. "But why hide it?" I asked. "Why drain us drop by drop instead of taking everything?" Charlie hesitated. Then he opened one more file. PDF. Contract. A contract with Ridgepoint Solutions. Signed by my ex-wife. I felt the blood drain from my face. "That signature's real," Charlie said quietly. "I checked it." I stumbled back a step.
No. Y whisperat.
"She wouldn't do that." He shook his head. "Look closer." He zoomed in on the signature line. And there, barely visible, almost faded, was another signature underneath hers. A witness. Evan Barnes. My stomach turned. I felt sick. "She didn't sign that willingly," I said. "He made her. He must have." Charlie exhaled. "I think so too." But he didn't stop there. He clicked the final tab. And that's when I saw it. A list of names, dates, amounts, all tied to Ridgepoint, all tied to East Harbor, all tied to the same P.O. box from the envelope she received. And every single entry, someone her father used to work with, old crew, old associates, old debts, all hiding money, all keeping secrets, all terrified of the ledger she found. I sank into the chair. "It wasn't just Evan," I said. It's a whole network. Charlie nodded slowly. And they used your business to wash money for almost a decade. The room tilted. A decade. 10 years of my life. 10 years of her life. 10 years of lies. 10 years of fear she never once spoke out loud. Charlie, I said quietly, this audit, this changes everything. He met my eyes. That's why I didn't sleep either, he admitted. There's something worse. My breath stilled. Worse than this. He clicked into one final folder. A folder labeled, safe_locations. My pulse kicked. What is that? Charlie rubbed his forehead. Those companies, Ridgepoint, East Harbor, they were used to pay rent on storage leases. My heart slammed. Storage. He clicked a map. A red pin appeared. Then another. Then another. 6 in total. All rented under false names. All traced back to the same P.O. box. All paid with money taken from my business. What were they storing? I whispered. He looked at me with an expression I'd never seen on his face before. Fear. That ledger, he said. Or copies of it. Or documents connected to it. Dread crawled slowly up my spine. And your wife? Charlie asked quietly. She must have found one of the locations years ago. Maybe she took the original. Maybe she hid it. I swallowed hard. And if she hid it, they want it back. Charlie nodded. And if you found that letter from her father, he continued, then they know you're involved now. My pulse raced. Everything connected. Everything aligned. Her father's warning. Evan's threat. The collector. The house. The safe. The ledger. And the financial bleeding orchestrated to keep me weak and distracted. It all led to one thing. One terrifying realization. We were never supposed to survive this. Charlie leaned back. Where do you think she went? He asked. I stared at the map. At the 6 red pins. At the cluster forming a crooked circle around the city. She went to finish what her father started. I whispered. Or to destroy it before someone else finds it. Charlie exhaled shakily. And what are you going to do? I closed the laptop slowly, because the answer terrified me. Find the safe, I said, before the collector finds me. By the time I left Charlie's office, the sun was fully up, but the world didn't feel brighter. Felt exposed. Raw. Like daylight could now reveal things I'd been blind to for years. I sat in my truck for a long time, gripping the steering wheel the way a drowning man grips the edge of a pool. Everything Charlie uncovered. Every lie Mia confessed. Every message from that unknown number. It all pointed in a single direction. The divorce wasn't a division. It was a strategy. A shield. A sacrifice. She didn't win the house. She took it because she had to. Because everything dangerous was hidden inside its walls. And the business? I didn't win it. They left it to me. Left me with a sinking ship, drained bank accounts, forged loans, and a financial trap I didn't realize was tightening for a decade. The truth settled into my gut with the weight of a boulder. Neither of us won. But someone else did. The someone who wanted the ledger. The someone who forced Mia to help bleed the business. The someone who sent warnings. The someone she was running from. The collector. I drove aimlessly for a while, letting the city blur past my windows. Cars, buildings, people living normal lives, people with normal problems, people who weren't being hunted for something they didn't even know existed. At 9:17 a.m., my phone buzzed. I nearly dropped it when I saw the sender. Not the unknown number. A single message. Don't look for me. My breath froze. I typed back immediately. Where are you? Delivered. No response. I know about the ledger. Read. Still no response. My blood pounded. You're in danger. We both are. This time 3 dots appeared. Typing. Then disappeared. Typing again. Finally, a message. You don't understand. I stared at those words, anger and fear twisting inside me. Me. Then explain. Now. Her. If you find me, he will too. Me. Who? The collector. Her. Stop. Please. Me. I found your father's letter. Her. Oh God. Me. Where is the safe? Her. Don't touch it. Another message followed instantly. He wants you now. A chill crawled across my skin. Me. Why me? Her. Because of the divorce. Me. What about it? Her. You're legally tied to everything in that house. I froze. My hand tightened around the phone so hard it hurt. He thinks you have the ledger. My stomach dropped. Every breath felt sharp. Every thought tangled into a single realization. The divorce wasn't protection. It was a transfer of blame. The collector believed she cut ties to hide the ledger behind a legal smokescreen. He believed I kept the business to mask the money trail. He believed the house was simply a diversion, which meant he believed the ledger was in my possession. And that changed everything. I dialed her number, straight to voicemail. I tried again. Same result. On the third attempt, instead of calling, I texted, "Then tell me where you really hid it." But the message never delivered. Her phone was off. We're smashed. We're taken. I gripped the steering wheel again, my mind racing with a clarity I hated. She didn't disappear to run. She disappeared to redirect him, to protect me. And by showing up at her house, by finding her letter, by digging into the accounts, I'd become the new target. Me, not her. I drove straight to the business, not because I felt safe there, but because I needed information, records, files, anything. When I stepped inside, something felt off immediately. The lights were on. I hadn't left them on. "Hello," I called out. Silence. The faint hum of machinery. The smell of coffee, fresh, not old. Someone had been here. Recently. Maybe they still were. I stepped into my office, and for a moment, I thought everything was normal. Until I saw the desk. Not messy. Not ransacked. Clean. Too clean. Someone had wiped it down. Someone had organized my papers. Someone had been looking for something. My pulse spiked. I scanned the desk again. Everything was neat except for one object placed deliberately in the center. A flash drive. Black. Unlabeled. A note taped on top. 2 words. He knows. My mouth went dry. I looked around the office again, suddenly aware of the shadows in the corners. I picked up the flash drive with shaking fingers and plugged it into my laptop. A single folder appeared, untitled. Inside it, one file, a video, timestamped 1:02 a.m. the night before. I clicked it. The screen flickered. A grainy, dimly lit hallway appeared. A security camera angle. And then, footsteps. Heavy. Slow. A man walked into frame. Tall. Dark jacket. Face hidden by a hood. Movements controlled, as if he knew exactly where every camera was positioned. My breath stopped when he paused under the light. Not enough to show his face. Just enough to show his hands. Black gloves. Thick. Tactical. Expensive. He looked up at the camera. And smiled. My stomach turned inside out. Then he held something up to the lens. A photograph. My photograph. A picture of me standing outside her house the night the lights were on. He tapped the photo twice with his gloved finger, and the video cut to black. I sat there, frozen, heart pounding in my throat. Footsteps in the shop snapped me back. Not imagined. Not on a recording. Real. Close. Inside. I turned slowly toward the doorway. A shadow stretched across the floor. Coming closer. Someone was here. Someone who knew I'd seen the video. Someone who knew I'd discovered the truth. And someone who wasn't hiding anymore. My phone buzzed. A message from the unknown number. Don't run. Another step. Another shadow. Another breath stolen from my lungs. We need to talk. I backed up until I hit the wall. My pulse thundered in my ears. Then a final message appeared. Turn around. I froze, because the voice behind me said, he's right. The voice behind me wasn't the collector's. It was worse. It was familiar. Too familiar. I turned slowly, heart pounding so hard it made my vision tremble. And there he stood. Evan. Older. Sharper. More put together than the last time I'd seen him. Hair slicked back. Black jacket. No remorse in his eyes at all. Just calculation. He smiled like we were old friends meeting for coffee. Long time, he said. You look tired. My fists curled. Tired of you, I said. He chuckled, stepping into the office like he owned the space, like it had been built for him instead of me. Well, he said, you weren't supposed to get dragged into this so soon, but you always did have a talent for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Where is she? I demanded. He raised a hand. Let's not start with threats. That wasn't a threat.
No.
He smirked. Maybe it should be. You're not much of a negotiator otherwise. I took a step toward him. Where is she, Evan? He made a soft, annoyed sigh. You really don't understand what's happening, do you? Then explain. Oh, I will. But not because you deserve answers. He pointed at the flash drive plugged into my laptop. Because you're officially out of time. My chest tightened. What does that mean? It means, he said casually, the collector knows you've been poking around. He knows you found her father's letter. He knows you were in the house. A pause. And he knows you're looking for the safe. My pulse spiked. Good, I said, jaw tightening. Let him come. Evan laughed, loud, sharp, cruel. Oh, he is coming, he said. But he's not coming for you. I frowned. What does that? He's coming, Evan said softly. For her. The floor seemed to tilt beneath my feet. She doesn't have the ledger, I said. We both know that. Yes, Evan said. You have it. My stomach dropped. No, I don't. Evan tilted his head. And yet someone mailed you a warning. Someone put that letter in her drawer. Someone left a trail directly to you. My breath caught. You set me up. He shrugged. She needed to look innocent. You needed to look guilty. It's simple math. My fists clenched so tight my nails dug into my palms. And you think I'm just going to let you get away with that? Evan smiled. You don't have much choice, my friend. I'm not your friend. No, he said, stepping closer. You're a shield. Target. A name on paperwork that isn't hers. That's all you ever were. Why? I demanded. Why come after us? Why the business? Why drain it? Why the house? Because her father, Evan said with a sudden sharpness, took something that wasn't his. The ledger, I whispered. The ledger, he repeated. He stepped toward my desk and picked up the flash drive. You think this was to scare you? He shook his head. This was a message from him. The collector? Evan's lips curved. He doesn't leave messages. He leaves deadlines. I slid down my spine. And yours? Evan said, dropping the flash drive back onto the desk, is tomorrow. Meaning, if you don't turn over the ledger by midnight, he stops looking for her. My heart stopped and starts digging. I felt the rage rise first, hot, violent, blinding. But underneath it was something colder. Fear. Because if what Evan said was true, she didn't have much time left. I stepped forward and grabbed Evan by the collar, slamming him against the wall so hard the frame above my desk rattled. Tell me where she is, I growled. He didn't flinch, didn't even blink. Do it again, he whispered. And you'll never see her alive. My grip faltered. He took the opportunity to straighten his jacket and smirk. Good, he said. Now you're listening. You're a snake, I spat. And you, he said with a shrug, are late to your own disaster. He walked toward the office door, paused in the frame, and looked back. You want real advice? He said. Stop looking for her. Not happening. He sighed. Then at least stop looking alone. My chest tightened. What does that mean? You think I'm the worst one in the room, he said. You think I'm the monster. He pointed upward, toward the ceiling, toward the front of the building, toward the door. He's already here. A chill ripped down my spine. Evan. But he was gone. Just gone. Like he'd never been there. The silence in the shop felt suffocating. I walked slowly toward the front windows, heart in my throat. The street outside was empty. Still. Dead. Until a black sedan turned the corner. Slow. Purposeful. Unhurried. It stopped directly in front of my business. The driver's door opened. A man stepped out. Tall. Dark coat. Face shadowed. Confident in a way only someone who feared nothing could be. Every instinct screamed who I was looking at. The collector. He didn't move toward the building. He didn't call out. He just lifted his head and looked directly at me through the glass. Not surprised. Not curious. Not angry. Just patient. Like he already knew what I'd do. Like he had been expecting me. My phone buzzed. A new message from that same unknown number. But this time it wasn't cryptic. It wasn't a warning. It was an order. Bring the ledger, or she dies. My hand shook as I read the next line. You have 24 hours. The man outside tapped his watch once. A gesture. A countdown. Promise. I swallowed hard, breath shallow. Because in that moment, staring at the man who'd been hunting us for a decade, I finally understood the truth. The divorce wasn't the battle. The marriage wasn't the lie. The house wasn't the prize. The ledger wasn't just leverage. It was a contract, a map, a list of secrets worth more than our entire lives. And the countdown had begun. I didn't sleep that night, not because I didn't try, but because every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face. Not the face she had the day she left. Not the face in court, guarded and tired, but the face from years earlier, soft, hopeful, trusting. The face of someone who never should have been dragged into the world her father left behind. The collector's deadline wasn't a deadline. It was a death sentence. 24 hours. And he knew I didn't have the ledger. But he also didn't care. It wasn't about the ledger anymore. It was about control, power, punishment, and he had all three. At 4:11 a.m., I started driving. No destination, just movement. The city streets were empty, silent except for the hum of streetlights and the occasional car cutting through an intersection, unaware that someone's life was ticking away with every passing second. My phone buzzed twice in 30 minutes. Unknown number. Unknown number. I didn't answer. The messages were always the same. Tick. Tock. You're running out of time. She won't last another night. I gripped the wheel until my hands ached. I needed a lead, a location, a direction, anything. But the truth gnawed at me with every mile. I didn't have the ledger. I didn't know where the safe was. I didn't know where she was being held. All I had was a map of storage units and a list of enemies, and a fear I couldn't outrun. At sunrise, I drove to her house. Not because I expected the collector to be there, he was smarter than that, but because the house was the beginning of all this. Her father's letter, the repairs she never did, the secrets she hid, the safe I still hadn't found. The house was quiet when I pulled up. Too quiet. I unlocked the back door, stepped inside, and paused. The air smelled faintly of lavender again. Someone had been here, recently, but not her. She didn't have time to stage sense. She was surviving. Barely. I searched the kitchen, the living room, the office, every inch of the downstairs. Nothing. The safe wasn't here, which left only one place. The attic. The ladder creaked under my weight as I climbed. The moment my head crossed the opening, a wave of cold air hit my face. The attic was dim, dust dancing in narrow beams of morning light. Boxes, old furniture, seasonal decorations, all untouched, except for one square of floorboards, slightly raised. My pulse quickened. I crossed the attic slowly, crouched, and pressed my fingers under the warped boards. They lifted easily. Underneath was a small metal safe, old, dented, heavy. It wasn't locked with a key. It was a digital keypad. 6 digits. Her father had left a code. I typed it in. The safe clicked. And inside was not a ledger, not papers, Not money, just a flash drive. Black, small, unlabeled. My lungs tightened. This was it. Not the original ledger. The digital copy. Her father's insurance. Her father's threat. Her father's final weapon. But if I had it now, then the collector would come to me. No more secrets. No more running. No more misdirection. This was the end of the line. And I didn't know who would be alive at the end of it. The flash drive felt heavier than it should have as I closed the safe and climbed back down. I barely reached the bottom step before my phone buzzed. Unknown number. But this time the message wasn't a taunt. It was an address. And one line. Come alone. My throat tightened. This was it. The trade. The confrontation. The end. The address was on the outskirts of town. An abandoned textile mill. The kind of place you only see in crime shows or nightmares. I got in my truck, started the engine, and drove. No music. No sounds. Just the steady pulse of dread in my veins. The mill appeared at the end of a long gravel road. Rusted metal, shattered windows, weeds growing through cracked pavement. Perfect grave for secrets. As I pulled in, I noticed something. A single car. Her car. Parked crooked, like whoever left it was dragged out before the engine cooled. My chest tightened. I stepped out of the truck. The air was cold enough to sting. Then the door to the mill creaked open. A silhouette stood in the doorway. Tall. Coated. Still. The collector. He raised one hand and motioned for me to come closer. I swallowed, grabbed the flash drive from my pocket, and walked forward. My footsteps echoed against rusted metal. Inside the mill, the air was damp and stale. The collector stood in the center of the room. Broad shoulders, dark coat, face obscured by shadows. And behind him, her hands tied, duct tape over her mouth, eyes wide and terrified. Alive, barely. My breath caught. Let her go, I said. He didn't answer, just tilted his head, studying me. Do you have it? He asked, voice low, calm. I held up the flash drive. He smiled. Bring it here. No, I said. You untie her first. The smile vanished. He stepped closer. Give me the ledger, he said. Or she dies in front of you. I said untie her. Another step. Then another. Until he was inches from me. You think you're in control? He whispered. You think bravery works on men like me? He grabbed my collar and yanked me forward. She has fought me for 10 years, he growled. She hid it. She lied. She moved it. She made a fool of me. His breath was cold against my cheek. And now you think you can negotiate? I didn't blink. You kill her, I said quietly. And the ledger dies with me. A long moment passed. Then he let go. Fine, he said. A trade. He motioned to two of his men. They moved toward her, cutting the ropes from her wrists and ankles. She collapsed to the ground. Alive, breathing, shaking. Our eyes met, and something inside me broke. 10 years of pain. 10 years of lies. 10 years of distance. None of it mattered now. Not when she was fighting to stay alive. The collector held out his hand. The ledger. I stepped forward. Slow. Careful. I could feel her eyes on me. Pleading, terrified, begging me not to do something stupid. But it was too late for safe choices. We were past that. I placed the flash drive into the collector's palm. His smile returned. Good, he said softly. But then he pocketed the drive and pulled out a gun, aimed it at her. No. I lunged, but two men grabbed me from behind, pinning my arms. The collector shook his head. You really don't understand, he said. This isn't about the ledger anymore. This is about cleaning up loose ends. Her eyes filled with tears. My chest exploded with panic. Don't, I begged. Take me instead. He turned the gun toward my forehead. Oh, he said with a cold smile. I will. He pulled the trigger. The room erupted. But the bullet didn't hit me. It hit the metal post inches beside my head. A warning. He stepped closer. You've caused me too much trouble, he said. Both of you. The gun moved toward her again. My heart stopped. Goodbye. But before he could fire, a scream echoed through the mill. Stop! Mia! She burst through the side door, gun shaking in her hands. Every head snapped toward her. The collector laughed. You? He sneered. You're nothing. Maybe, she said, voice trembling. But I have something you don't. She threw something on the ground. A flash drive. Just like mine. But not mine. The original ledger. Chaos erupted. The collector lunged. His men sprinted. I broke free. She crawled toward me. And then, gunshots. 1, 2, 3. Screams. Footsteps. Shouting. I grabbed her and pulled her behind a concrete pillar, shielding her with my body. Mia! I yelled. Run! But she wasn't moving. When the gunfire finally stopped, the dust settled. The collector was gone. His men were gone. The ledger was gone. And Mia was on the ground, bleeding. She looked up at me and whispered, "Protect her, please." Then her eyes closed and didn't reopen. 18 months later, we moved away from the city. A small town, quiet, safe enough, safe for now. The house, the business, the debts, the lies, we left them behind. But the scars? Those came with us. Some nights we sit together on the couch, holding hands in silence, both knowing a truth we'll never say aloud. The collector isn't gone. He's waiting, watching, somewhere in the shadows. The ledger is out there. The danger is out there. But we're still here, still fighting, still breathing, still choosing each other. Every day, every hour, every terrified moment. And that's the life we earned. Not perfect, not peaceful, not simple, but real. And sometimes, in the quiet moments before sleep, I think about the divorce papers, the settlement, the fight over the house, the business, the things we thought mattered. We didn't win anything. We didn't lose anything. We survived. And surviving, sometimes, is the closest thing to victory life gives you. Final line. Some nights, when the wind hits the windows just right, I swear I hear a knock at the door. Soft, patient, like a reminder, like a promise, like a warning. Some doors, once opened, never truly close.